Today, we're diving into a really baffling mystery. It's the story of a young, vibrant woman who basically vanished into thin air from a Disney cruise ship. What she left behind is a trail of confusing clues and a ton of unanswered questions that make you rethink everything you think you know about safety on the high seas.
You hear this phrase sometimes. It's this unofficial mantra from former Disney employees. It's this piece of corporate folklore. And the idea is that the company works incredibly hard to protect that perfect family-friendly image. But that powerful branding is what makes the story we're about to get into so jarring. Because on March 22nd, 2011, that magical bubble, it burst. A 24-year-old youth worker named Rebecca Coriam from England just disappeared. She was on the Disney Wonder sailing off the coast of Mexico. And this was a first. Nothing like this had ever happened on a Disney cruise before. So what do we actually know about her last hours? Well, the timeline we have is both incredibly precise and, honestly, frustratingly incomplete. Okay, so in the early hours of the morning, she sends a Facebook message to her parents. Everything seems normal, but then at 5:45 a.m., we get this really critical piece of security footage. She's in a crew lounge on an internal phone, and she looks really distraught. A male coworker comes up to her, seems to ask if she's okay, and you can see her mouth the words, "Yeah, fine," before she hangs up. A little more than 3 hours later, she doesn't show up for her shift, and just like that, she's gone. So almost immediately, you get two completely different stories taking shape. There's the official one from Disney, and then there's the one that Rebecca's heartbroken family started piecing together themselves. Disney's theory, which the ship's captain told her parents, was that a freak rogue wave hit the ship and just washed her overboard from the crew pool on deck 5. But her family, they just couldn't believe it. And you can see why. The steel walls around that pool area are over 6 feet high. It just seems impossible that a wave could pull someone over that wall without doing some serious damage to the ship itself. And other details just fueled their doubts even more. The clothes she's wearing in that last phone call video, they look like oversized men's pajamas. Definitely not hers. The shorts that were eventually returned to her parents had been ripped. And then there are the flip-flops. This is a huge point of contention. Disney said they were found right where she supposedly went overboard, but they were the wrong size, not her style at all. And get this, they had another crew member's name and cabin number written on them. So with the official investigation pretty much stalling out, a journalist, John Ronson, actually boarded the Disney Wonder to see what he could find out on his own. And what he found was a culture of silence. I mean, this quote from a bartender on the ship just says it all. When Ronson started quietly asking about Rebecca, this is the kind of answer he got. You could feel this real sense of fear among the crew, like they knew they absolutely were not supposed to talk about what happened. But some people did talk to him, quietly. This other quote from a crew member points to this deep-seated belief that the company was holding something back. They were all insisting, look, this ship has cameras everywhere, Disney has the whole thing on tape, they're just not showing anyone. The people actually on the ship felt there was way more to the story. And this, right here, brings us to the real core of the problem. The reason this case got so murky so fast. It's not just about what happened, it's about who was supposed to be in charge of finding out. 1. Just one. That's the number of police officers assigned to investigate the disappearance of a person from a cruise ship that was carrying almost 3,000 people. And that single detective, he was from the Royal Bahamas Police Force. So why the Bahamas? Well, even though the ship sailed out of LA and Rebecca disappeared in Mexican waters, the Disney Wonder was registered in the Bahamas. According to her parents, this one officer spent a single day on the ship and only interviewed a few crew members. That was it. And this all leads us to this concept called a flag of convenience. It's a really common business practice. Companies register their ships in countries that have, let's say, more lenient rules and regulations. But the dangerous consequence is that when a crime happens, the investigation falls to a country that might not have the resources or even the real authority to do a proper job. And look, this is not just a Disney thing, not by a long shot. The Bahamas, Panama, Liberia, they are the most popular flag states for the entire cruise industry. It's a systematic issue that basically leaves passengers and crew in this weird legal gray area once they're out on the open ocean. And tragically, Rebecca Coriam's case is not some isolated incident. The number of people who have just vanished from cruise ships is honestly staggering.
Yeah, since the year 2000 alone, more than 170 people have gone missing from cruise ships. And in so many of these cases, it's the same story as Rebecca's. They're bogged down by these jurisdictional loopholes, and families are left with way more questions than answers. So, after more than a decade, where does all of this leave the case of Rebecca Coriam? Well, that official report from the Bahamas was eventually finished, but Rebecca's family says they were never even given a copy. The police force back in her home county in the UK, they did get to see it, and they called it totally and utterly unsatisfactory. I mean, that's a pretty damning review coming from another law enforcement agency. In 2016, the Coriam family did settle a civil lawsuit against Disney. The details were never made public, so we don't know what was agreed upon. It brought a legal end to their fight, sure, but it gave us zero public answers about what actually happened to their daughter. And so, the mystery of Rebecca Coriam really leaves us with this one deeply unsettling question. When you're out in international waters, sailing under a flag of convenience, far away from any real, robust law enforcement, who is actually responsible when justice itself seems to fall overboard?